Broadcasting live from the fork in the road on the plain of Innistrad. This is Tap Tap Concede. Welcome. Graham here.
And I'm Professor Nelly from Crazy Nelly's Judge School of Wizardry.
And we've never broadcast from a sorcery before.
Yeah, we wanted to mix it up.
Yeah, because this is the first episode that, well, okay, if you're listening to the podcast, nothing has changed for you. But if you are watching on YouTube, this is the first episode on our new channel, LRRMTG, because
Welcome.
we have done a fork.
To LRRMTG.
Exactly. We've taken, we've kept the comedy and the light entertainment and the non-magic goofs on Loading Ready Run, and we've brought all the magic over here.
The magic comedy and the magic lighthearted entertainment and the magic goofs
There's
are over here.
There's an update video about it on youtube.com/loadingreadyrun, where you can also find a video of Nelson and I hopefully directing you over here. But we decided that we produce a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of different stuff.
You may have noticed when our ads show up before our videos.
And it can be sort of overwhelming. And we felt that if we take all the magic stuff, which is a considerable chunk, and put it here, then people who only want the magic will be able to find it better. People who only want the comedy will be able to find it better. People who want both can find it just as easily by subscribing to two channels. And it will probably help the growth of both channels, that people who just want comedy and entertainment stuff without a bunch of magic things, or people who just want magic without non-magic stuff, will be able to find things that are more what they're looking for. So,
Loading Ready Run, making it even easier for you to chuckle about stuff.
We think so. We think this will be a good change it's a marginal increase in work on our end from an admin perspective, but I think it will be better for you, the viewer, which is the main reason that we did it. We just think it'll be better for the viewers and better for the health of both channels. So.
Working hard so all you adorable kittens can scratch at your iPads more easily.
Mm-hmm. And so before we get into the episode, I want to remind you, of course, that this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com.
You thank the Patreon subscribers first.
I know. I brain jammed myself and went right to the Patreon. Well, everything is still brought to you by Patreon. And yes, this show is still sponsored by cardkingdom.com. Check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. We continue to think they're great. We use them all the time. And you can tell them Loading Ready Run sent me button please, which unless that I heard internally that they fulfilled a lot of orders for the new Commander set. So maybe they're out, but currently the button is in response, I concede.
Nice.
So
that's like one of our better.
It's a very Commander
love it.
kind of thing.
And it's like for the podcast, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cardkingdom.com. If you want our cards, we demand your fealty.
Because they're a kingdom, you see. Yeah. Card serfs. That's us.
We usually thank them first, and I finished my aria, and then Graham walked out on stage, and I went to jump into his arms for him to catch me, and he just stepped right back off on stage, and I just fell onto the theater floor and broke my hip. I have a hip replacement surgery coming up next week. Thanks, Graham.
I'm so sorry. Now, before we get to the Crack-a-Pack and our various topics today, which is going to be banned and restricted announcement, we're going to talk about that because the BNR just happened at time of recording, and MagicFest Vegas, because you just came back from Vegas.
Just got back.
So we're gonna talk about that, and of course we're going to do a Crack-a-Pack. Before that, since this is the first episode on this new channel, this felt to me like a good time to sort of reestablish a statement of I guess ethical philosophy as far as this podcast goes, because over the years there have been comments, not a lot, but it's come up enough, and I've responded to it occasionally out of hand on the podcast, but I want to be really, really specific.
We're talking to you.
That people have said things like, well, of course Loading Ready Run has a weak opinion of this, or of course you're giving us a sanitized look at it because of your relationship with Wizards of the Coast. And we absolutely do have a fantastic relationship with Wizards of the Coast. We've worked with them for years. We make Friday nights for them on contract. They pay us to do the pre-releases. We have a wonderful working relationship with them, and I hope that that continues for some time. That said, they don't tell us what to say.
They sure don't.
Certainly not on this podcast. And we have been and will continue to be critical of Wizards of the Coast when they do things that we think are not good. The thing is that, and this is very personal to me, I'm not interested in chasing rage clicks, and I'm not interested in catastrophizing corporate missteps just because it's more entertaining or it gets more clicks or riles up listeners or viewers more to be frothingly mad at Wizards of the Coast when they do something that we don't like. I don't think that's productive, and it's not the kind of content I want to make or wish to cater to or even consume myself.
There are plenty of channels for that, though, and if you want them, you should go get those.
And it works
well. They suck more than our channel, but
I mean, the thing is, the YouTube algorithm definitely benefits engagement.
Enragement is engagement.
Exactly.
Right? That's the buzzword. Yeah.
And we're not interested in doing that. And so even when we are very critical of Wizards of the Coast, it may seem like we're not by comparison, because when we say things like, I don't like this, I think this was a bad idea, and I'm annoyed and upset that Wizards did XYZ thing, because we're not calling for heads on pikes, it sounds like we're must be in Wizards' pocket. They're telling us what to say. So the thing is, if you're the sort of person who believes that Wizards controls everything that we do related to Magic, then I'm never really going to be able to convince you. So, it depends on whether or not you trust my word. They don't tell us what to say on Tap Tap Concede. They get script approval on Friday nights. That's it. They ask if we can not swear on the pre-releases.
We sure try not to.
We try not. We've gotten a lot better about not swearing on the pre-releases.
We're no Martin Mueller.
Yeah. But when it comes to this show or North 100 or our streams or our own Twitters, they don't control what we say. And I just want to be really clear about that. The two aspects, that they don't tell us what to say, and when we are critical, we are making a conscious decision to not be, frothing rage cases about it, because I don't think that's to anyone's benefit. Wizards has real people who work there, and they're trying their best, and often their best is things that I don't personally like, and that's fine. And I can be critical of the decisions without being insulting to the people personally.
Yeah, so. I think we feel that to deliver you the best content we can, we're going to try to be stable while we're up here on the podcast.
Yeah.
And if we want to be critical of something Wizards does, we'll be critical in kind of the same way that we would be critical of a Hollywood film studio or a fast food chain, or a candy retailer that put out a product that we used to like and now don't because they've changed it. And the kids these days are crazy, and I don't know why there's Cheetos in it now.
You're talking about something very specific here, aren't you?
No, lots of different specific things. All kinds of soda pop companies.
The candy things seem to come from a place of real hurt.
I've just had the knife twisted in my heart by a new M&M's flavor too many times, Graham.
They quietly sunsetted the Wonka brand, and I'm annoyed about it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
exactly. But we care about all the decisions that Wizards of the Coast makes.
Oh, yeah.
Just like you do. But by the time we've read 2 frothing takes that somehow hit our news feed because enough people clicked on them, then we know that that's not the one we want to take. Even though, we might be legitimately mad. I wasn't mad about the Judge Academy or the OP announcements. And I feel like if it came off that in this, I'm getting specific now rather than general. But if it came off like I was like, oh, well, it's disappointing that I didn't get the thing I would like the most. It's also because the thing I would like the most about the Judge program is not what it was or has ever been, right? Like, we've never been employees of Wizards of the Coast when we're judging, right? So it's not like we had something taken away from us. It's just like a time of change, and it's not a change that like everyone who's been an enfranchised judge and judged for many hundreds or thousands of hours will suddenly be like, oh, great, I feel super respected now because of this.
It's worth noting, relating to that, because the previous, in studio episode, because of course the last episode was live from
Right.
From Vegas. But yeah, you're talking about the judge program, and not even everything said on Tap Tap Concede is necessarily like the opinion of Loading Ready Run and Bionic Trousers Media, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like I don't know how I feel about the Judge Academy. I actually think that the way that Wizards handles and has always handled judges in general, I think, is bad. And the idea that they want to be even more at arm's length and just be like, you all handle it, and we'll just make sure to use you all at our events, and you have to be accredited by this other thing that's unrelated and says that they're nonprofit but won't release any of their books or whatever. You know, it's like I don't like that. I think that's bad, and I want more information to come out about it. And I don't know what other information there is forthcoming, if anything. But it sounds like the whole thing was very, very quickly. It was very quickly cobbled together.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
as a side note, I was looking for a card to represent stable opinions.
oh yeah.
Turns out there are no stable cards. There are 6 cards that have the word unstable in them.
Right.
But there are no cards that have stable.
There's
I don't
no
know.
like stable footing or
Unstable Frontier comes to mind, but there's no stable Frontier.
what about just balance?
Sure.
Yeah,
That's a good
balance,
one.
I guess, would be a good one.
Balance, the safest, most stable,
It's fair.
fairest card.
It's fair because it's symmetrical.
Yeah. I feel like that's actually a pretty, in some ways, that's like kind of a backhanded thing of you know, truly attempting to be balanced and ends up being with the card balance,
Yeah.
which is completely out of whack.
Notoriously unbalanced. Yeah.
I would like to add one addendum to the 2 weeks ago podcast we had where we talk about the new state of OP and the new state of Judge Academy coming out. And like the more people I talked to and the more I tried to catch up on reading the announcements, like finishing reading the articles and stuff, I just think it's the more things change, the more things stay the same. Like for you as a player and for me as a judge, much more about the 2020 year will be the same as every other year you've engaged with Magic, then will be different. You know, there's like some different paperwork, some different companies, some different things to get invited to.
Right.
And yet your experience as a Magic player is going to be largely the same. Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, that's good at least.
Yeah, and like also probably a good note to end on, as it's sort of like, yeah, sorry everyone, we're not that mad because actually there's not that much to be that mad about.
The magic will abide.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, in that case, let's get on to the crack pack. Roll that big D20.
Let's crack a pack.
What do you got? 14.
Great mug
2,
you've got there.
4,
Hey, I got to
6,
meet Sam
8,
from our
from Ristic Studies?
from Ristic Studies. I was trying to be like our sister channel. I'm like, no, I guess that's not really what Ristic Study is.
I like Sam
From
a
our,
lot, but
our sister on YouTube,
yeah.
Ristic Studies.
Yeah,
Another vessel sailing the shores of YouTube and dealing with all the rageful comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, YouTube. This is a pack of...
Whoa, 4th.
Oh, thank you. 4th edition.
Wow.
From Iban West. Was sent to us from the April episode of Mail Time. And yeah, it just says Magic the Gathering.
Sweet. Yeah, there's nothing good in here, but these packs are very rare.
Are they? Well,
Yeah.
cool. It's got a Hurloon Minotaur. Remember when Hurloon Minotaur was the face of Magic?
Yeah. So yeah, quick history lesson.
Okay.
Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, all the same print run of cards, except they forgot to print Volcanic Island in Alpha. It just didn't make it onto the sheet. And then so same print run of cards, and then they're like, wait, draw 3 for 1 mana is not quite right, and add 3 for 0 is also not. So they cut all the super busted cards, revised. They had dual lands, and then 4th they didn't. So the dual lands survived, along with like Soul Ring and Demonic Tutor. And then those sets of cards and maybe some other ones got cut for 4th. So by 4th, the development team had really made some headway with like, oh, we won't want everyone's decks to be able to cast all the different spells because like there's going to be players who just buy all the dual lands.
That makes sense.
That was like another permutation away from like, oh, we don't want Mox Sapphire to be a card because someone will go and collect 4. And then they'll be able to play a Mahamoti Djinn on turn 1.
Didn't you open pack of 4th last time? That's where you got that
Felden's Cane?
Ben pulled yet another Felden's Cane.
Wasn't it? Was that just the? Oh, maybe it was 4th, or was it Chronicle? Maybe it was 4th last time. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Maybe
Sorry.
we've hit a rich vein of 4th.
Yeah.
All right, well, first
Okay.
up, we've got... Is this where I should put them, Paul?
How's that look? We close? It's the Ocean Soldier with gorgeous art by Christopher Rush. R.I.P.
Yeah, it's the 3 mana 1/4 artifact creature with vigilance. Or, I'm sorry, attacking does not cause Ocean Soldier to tap.
What we used to call vigilance back in the day.
Yeah.
Or is what my friends who played Magic and I all actually called it, the Sarah Angel ability.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
3 mana 1/4 non-flying Sarah Angel is how we referred to Ocean.
I did briefly rearrange the pack because we like to build to the rare, and these were in a weird order.
Sure.
But I made some guesses, and I think I'm correct.
By the way.
Oh, yeah?
I want to say Fisher is uncommon, but that's okay. Maybe it's not.
Maybe not. Who knows?
The new art for Ocean Soldier.
Oh, yeah, he got
Also neat.
He got a real level up, huh?
Like also
I like
neat,
the first art
also
more.
neat, but
Yeah.
I always had this like this image of the Ocean Soldier as being this like insect thing.
Right.
It's
Does
kinda cool.
does look insectile from this from the original art. I like that the new art still kept the sort of translucent blade.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So Fissure is next. 3 red for an instant. Bury target land or creature. Bury means destroy and can't be regenerated. They've since replaced bury with destroy and can't be regenerated. Yeah. Next up, go ahead and jump. It's a single blue mana for an instant. Target creature gains flying until end of turn.
Might as well.
Sure. Oh god, this card. Giant Strength.
Oh, yeah.
Red for a creature enchantment, and the creature gets +2/+2.
I've been trying to champion that this is like Grey Ogre or Grizzly Bear, or like, a kind of card where this one was the first. Because they do keep making red enchantments that give +2/+2, and usually another ability, or sometimes a drawback.
Yeah.
Weirdly, they do that on both.
I just distinctly remember this weird gremlin-looking mother from when I played way back in the day.
Is it not just a naked dwarf?
I think so. No, he's got a tiny loincloth on. And for some
Not
reason,
not
the
completely
flavor
naked.
text is from Shakespeare's Measure for Measure. Very strange. All right.
I just like it's like choo choo.
Yeah.
He's he's the choo choo train.
He's carrying a
He's pulling a big train across the desert.
Yeah,
or something.
road train.
Oh, maybe it's through the water. I never know. I've never looked at the art this hard before.
I think it's just mud.
Cool.
I don't know. Anyway, Benalish Hero
Yep.
is a 1/1 with banding.
She made it. She's still in 4th.
Good for her.
The hero. We
Sorry,
need,
1/1
not
for
the
a
one
single
we
white
deserve.
mana. Yeah.
Yeah.
Her foreground arm. She's got like a shield or something on her foreground arm, right? It's not just like weirdly distorted.
No, it's just definitely got a shield there.
In Vegas, there were hundreds, well, at least 140 in one event of people playing 1993-94 old school Magic.
Wow.
And I got to give judge rules on banding.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool.
Cool.
I feel like Benalish Hero would be great for cosplay.
Fantastic, yeah.
Possibly less good for cosplay. Lost Soul.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's a very sheer sheet.
This isn't. It's not who we need in the cosplay world. Yeah.
Chilly, yeah.
Yeah.
1 black for a 2/1 with Swamp Walk. Summon Lost Soul. I love when they didn't have creature types, and they're just like, I guess this is summon whatever this creature is.
Yeah.
Poor Uncle Istvan. Hey, it's Flood.
Lost Soul.
yeah.
Lost Soul is a spirit minion.
Whoa.
Why is it a minion? That's interesting. All right. Flood is a single blue mana for an enchantment, and for blue, you can tap target creature without flying.
One of the first cards to sort of help players understand card advantage that didn't revolve around drawing cards, right? Like, it costs your mana, but you can keep leveling up how strong and how much of an advantage you're getting by tapping the creatures as they come into play, right?
Yeah.
As there keeps being a better creature to tap. And the fact that you can do 2 or 3 or 5 at once if you get enough mana.
A classic. Prodigal Sorcerer.
Tim the Enchanter.
2 and a blue for a 1/1 wizard, and tap to deal 1 damage to any target. I believe it's any target.
Yeah.
Now.
Should probably be able to do Planeswalkers.
Another great. I feel like this would be also a great cosplay. Like, I think if you saw somebody at a GP dressed.
I think I have actually. I think I've maybe gotten a selfie with a Tim the Enchanter.
I feel like there aren't that many Magic cards, especially from this era, that would be immediately recognizable
Yeah.
in terms of their costume, but I feel like this one would be.
I would do it, but I'd have to shave my mustache off, and I think that would look real bad.
I think Christine Sprankle showed up as Brainstorm from Arcadian Masks at the first GP Vegas.
yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
But I couldn't figure out who she was. But I was like, this cosplay is great. And then she tried to help me, and I still couldn't guess.
This is definitely some sort of complete failure of departments communicating because the name and the art looks like a creature and it's not. This is Seeker.
Oh, right.
2 white for a creature enchantment.
Yeah, it's an aura.
Target creature can't be blocked except by white creatures and artifact creatures. So it gives a white creature, it gives it white intimidate.
Yeah. For 4 mana, only 4.
It's so expensive. And it's called Seeker for some reason, and the art is like a ghost dude.
Yeah.
With sick pecs.
Yeah, that ghost is like way too jacked for a ghost.
Yeah. Weird. All right.
He died while working out.
Oh, hey, it's the original. I think it's the original. Frozen Shade.
Yep.
2 and a black for a 0/1 shade. And for a single black, it's +1/+1 till end of turn. The Shade ability.
Black Mage, the first shade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Reb. The red elemental blast.
Hey.
Single red mana. Counter target blue spell or destroy target blue permanent.
We're on the board. We hit our card we can sell.
Really? For how much?
25 cents, hopefully. You
Nice.
know, maybe more.
I
This
think-
card still gets played in various formats.
We definitely have something worth a couple dollars
Okay.
later in this pack.
Okay.
Next is Pyrotechnics.
Nice.
4 and a red for a sorcery. Deals 4 damage divided any way you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. Presumably now that's just any number of targets.
Yep. Limited bomb.
This was reprinted recently with new art.
Got brought back in, I want to say,
Wasn't this
Return to Zendikar?
In a set?
Yeah. No, it was in, was it in cons-ish? One of the con sets? I had it. It's been back lately, and because this card's pretty fair.
Yeah, Fate Reforged.
Fate Reforged has Pyrotechnics, yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's the only reprinting of it in a booster pack set, but yeah.
I kind of wish they had reprinted it with exactly the same art, but just like Chandra instead of...
Oh, that would have been cool.
Some
yeah.
random pyromancer.
That's funny. Yeah, I like this art a lot, yeah.
White Knight.
Okay.
It's white for incomplete painting. It's a 2/2 with protection from black, and it has first strike. It's a classic. It's real good.
Another iconic Magic card. What's wrong with the painting? Oh, they just didn't use paint for the white parts.
Well, no, it just looks.
Is that it? Or
maybe I'm thinking of a different White Knight, but there's definitely art. There's some kind of knight from this era that looks like they just sort of stopped partway through.
Is that one of the Order of Lietber?
Maybe it is
pictures?
Maybe it is one of the Order of Lietber.
Because like
ones.
some of them are more realistic than others.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like Elvish Healer that looks like it was done with pencil crayon and they gave up halfway through.
Yeah. I do like, it's like this White Knight meets the new White Knight.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the old White Knight is like, I feel like you're trying too hard, buddy.
Yeah.
You know,
Stay tuned.
sometimes it's like clean.
Yeah.
And sometimes less is more, is what I'm saying.
Stay tuned for that Crap Shots on the Crap Shots MTG channel. Sick rips. Yeah.
Yeah, this guy, the new White Knight has more detail in like one shoulder pad.
Yeah. I didn't realize, because the flavor text is actually the same on this one and the old one. I didn't realize this White Knight is like not a good dude. Out of the blackness and stench of the engulfing swamp emerged a shimmering figure. Only the splattered armor and ichor-stained sword hinted at the unfathomable evil the knight had just laid waste. Oh, laid waste.
Laid
okay.
waste,
Okay.
not just laid down.
Not done. Okay. They didn't do it. Why is knight capitalized in that sentence? Anyway, speaking of laying waste, check this out.
Woo!
Strip Mine.
I was wrong about there not being any good cards in fourth. My bad. Why did they keep printing Strip Mine?
Yeah, Strip Mine. It's a land. It enters untapped. Tap it to add 1 colorless, or more commonly, tap it and sacrifice it to destroy target land.
Anyone. Another iconic card, banned in most formats, super powerful. It's not quite part of the Power 9 and Associates discussion, but I would say it's like the very next power tier down.
Yeah.
That you go from like when your Soul Rings and your Black Lotuses are up here, and then what are the next most cards you're worried about? It's like stopping your opponents who can do fast stuff. Yeah.
What's a pack fresh 4th edition Strip Mine going for these days, Paul?
It's 10 or 20 bucks, right? I mean, how many people
Look at
have
us
a-
discussing the secondary market on our Wizards Funded podcast.
Yeah, I see about $18.
Hey, nice.
And we want to buy it. Yeah,
Great.
YJ wants to buy it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Strip Mine also has a place in my heart for being the card that messes up the card reader because it has 4 different arts.
It's not the only one, but yeah, there's a bunch of
I've
alternate
never
art.
seen those.
Yeah.
What?
I've only ever seen this art.
No.
There are 4 different arts that I'm convinced are just crops of the same picture.
Yeah, we've had this discussion before.
Well,
where
'cause
you're sure it's just like a pan.
Sure, because it
looks like that.
This is the only one that's in 4th, right?
I think that's the only art that has been reprinted. All
so
the rest
to
are just
see-
in
antiquities.
Activities, yeah.
And how often do I see an antiquities printing of strip mine?
I mean,
Not
find me a Highlander more,
commonly.
buddy. You know, I'm doing nothing every evening after the kids go to bed.
Anyway, I believe our rare, our last card certainly is
our rare.
Is a very dapper looking gentleman. It's Gaia's Liege, and it's 3 green for a star.
Oh yeah, I like him.
It has power and toughness equal to the number of forests you control, and when it attacks, these are instead equal to the number of forests defending player controls.
Did you get that?
That seems very bad. And it has a tap ability. Target land becomes a basic forest until Gaia's Liege leaves play. So you have to sit there with this giant liege on defense, and every turn one of their
Lands into a
just
forest.
start mana denying them into all their stepping forests.
You're getting it. Now you're understanding
then
the
you
value of
slam.
this card. It's not a 6 mana 10/10
It just seems very
that you're
slow.
stoked about. It's a demonic
not.
hordes in green that you don't have to pay an upkeep for. You just slam this guy, same price as demonic hordes you've heard of. They blow up lands just like strip mine, except you have to dark ritual into the demonic hordes every turn to keep them alive. You got to pay 3 black. But Gaia's Liege, no upkeep, and every turn you can just nuke one of their lands into a forest, which they can't use because they're trying to counterspell you. They counterspell this guy too. This is just your hope when you're building the deck. Also,
Amazing.
is there another card in Magic with art like this by
I don't
Damian
think so.
Willich?
I don't
Willich,
think so.
Maybe? Yeah, that so
It's monochrome.
between enjoying strip mines as I do,
Yeah.
and liking this art, I fell in love with this card very early and had a Gaia's Liege deck that was just like, mono green.
I remember that. Yeah,
Ways to not die to flyers and strip mines
Oh my
and like a
goodness.
plan of just like ending my opponent's mana. I think it was maybe red green actually. I might have played Stone Rays
Yeah,
too. in
I
the deck.
remember a very, very early, like, Gaia's Liege was, like, one of my early, like, pride of my collection kind of cards.
Yeah.
Like, I had it in a little sleeve when I didn't have any of my other cards in sleeves.
Okay, so if we were gonna guess the rarities by today's standards, 100% we know strip mine is mythic, right? So we got a mythic, which is nice,
Right.
And then like we know pyrotechnics is uncommon. Red
And
elemental blast should be uncommon.
White Knight is uncommon.
White knight we know is uncommon, but I don't think does it. Well, maybe it should be uncommon.
You're talking about like today's power level?
Should Fisher? Yeah, should Fisher be common or uncommon? I think.
Common.
Yeah, okay, because it's 5 mana.
Yeah, it. Literally, it's the 5 mana.
Okay, I was gonna say Gaia's should be common, but it's got
Probably.
so many words on it that it's kind of weird. It should probably be uncommon.
It's too complex. Yeah.
It almost should just be a rare, but maybe the strip minus foil, so it's not so bad.
As a side note, like, Gaia's Liege, it's had the same art for the entire run.
There's
Right.
only like 2 or 3 printings,
Yeah.
right? Like this was maybe
They-
the last one, and then they did it in Time Spiral, right?
There's definitely just some crap on the.
Yeah,
like,
right?
Like
Yeah.
when they scanned
the
it,
spill,
there-
yeah.
When they
That's the
scanned it, there was
photocopy
just like some
blur.
crap on the photocopy.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
Like, it looks like that, like when you get like a really old sleeve and there's like a few little bits of dust or dirt or something.
It
in
would
there.
drive me mad.
It also
Yeah.
just looks like Gandalf with cool antlers.
With antlers.
Yeah. So another good cosplay. Probably
I like
some
the
people
idea
would
of
get
being
it.
would you have to paint yourself green, or do you think just the antlers and maybe wearing like a green cloak?
I think you should. Okay, so you should green dust. First, you should maybe dye your hair all white if it's not already, and then you should like green dust yourself, like with some
Or
kind of like glitter
just
or like
hand everybody like green
gel?
green gelled glasses.
Well, yeah, because the trick is, the background is also perfectly green, right?
Right.
Like, maybe he's actually just he just takes on like the color of whatever he's around. You don't actually know, considering that he's the exact same color as his background. That
Right.
seems odd.
Maybe we're trapped in some sort of pitcher plant. I mean, it's a point of view shot. We're looking through like the membrane of a.
And he's actually just has totally normal coloration.
Yeah.
I went down more of a rabbit hole with Gaia's Liege than I've already been down, and I'm so grateful and impressed and surprised. So thank you to both of you.
Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Speaking of going down rabbit holes, let's
Yeah.
talk about banned and restricted announcements.
Yay!
Boy, there was a lot of changes.
So
Let's start with standard, Because that's the least. That's the least interesting.
I disagree.
Okay. Is it vintage that's the least interesting?
Well, okay. I mean, they're all kind of interesting. No, the least interesting one is the least surprising one. So do you know which one that is?
Oh, okay. So that's.
Do we start with modern?
Sure. Let's start with the
modern.
marquee. The marquee changes. The brief reign of terror is at an end.
You wanted it. You asked for it.
Hogak, the Arisen necropolis, has indeed been banned in modern. Cameron tweeted that he wished he could have seen, like been sort of paying attention, maybe like some sort of like heat map at MagicFest Vegas of like when someone scrubs out of, because everyone knew this was coming. Everyone felt this was coming. Watching people scrub out of the main event and then go to the dealer tables to sell their Hogaks.
Try to find one of the dealers that would buy the Hogaks.
Because the dealers aren't stupid either.
The dealers know too. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Hogak Arisen Necropolis is a quick reminder. It's 5 and 2 Golgari mana, so 7 mana.
Not.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's technically it has a CMC of 7. You can't spend mana though to cast it, but it has Convoke and Delve, so you need to convoke at least the 2 colored mana sources, and you can delve the rest, because you can cast it from your graveyard. And also it has Trample, and it's an 8/8, and it was tearing a hell swath through Modern for the past couple months.
I like how, I only just thought of this now, I'm sure someone else probably made this joke already, but like the line, you can't spend mana to cast this spell, is sort of like how on all the Zendikar creatures that just say this can't block, like, Bloodghast says they can't block. And we joke at Canadian Highlander tournaments that just like, that's just text on there to help you play better. Don't block with your creatures. Attack your opponent. Then you'll win. You don't win by blocking.
Yeah.
And like Hogak just has a line of text that says, don't forget, I'm a free card as long as you play right.
Yeah.
Don't spend mana on me. Just cast me for free always.
Yeah, if that line wasn't there, how often would he be cast for 7 mana?
Yeah,
very
never. Yeah, no.
The only trick is that does mean that you have to convoke.
Yeah, you have to have
to get those
creatures.
2 actual mana pips.
Yeah. Right.
So that does make it a little tricky. But yeah, so Hogak is banned. They go into greater depth on this. Of course, Ian Duke does terrific breakdowns of why they make all these changes. But what was that called?
I was going to say the problem is Hogak can be cast from the banned zone. So.
Exactly. They tried to, so they banned Bridge from Below.
This is a month ago, back when M20 came out. I think there's regular banned and restricted announcement check-ins now. It used to just be that
every like 6 months or something.
And there was like either every other set there would be like a check-in on every format, or every set there'd be a check-in on every format. And then after Kaladesh came out, they were like, oh, okay, we should just start having a regular period that's between every set as well.
Yeah.
So it's like right after the Pro Tour, basically, and then after a set comes out, there's an announcement. So there's like, I think 8 a year now.
Yeah. So they've talked before about how they don't want to immediately ban powerful cards that they've just printed, right? They don't want to be in a position where it's like, well, we just made this and we're banning it before. They want to try to give the metagame a chance to self-correct. And they didn't feel that there had been enough time with Hogak to do that. But they did ban Bridge from Below with the intent of making the Hogak deck worse. That didn't work.
I mean, it did make it worse.
They did make it worse, but it didn't do enough.
It didn't make it less of the metagame.
Curiously, they did not unban Bridge.
Yeah, I think they thought about unbanning Bridge and just said nothing safe ever happens with Bridge. I mean, it's possible they look at Bridge and they're like, this was sort of a mistake.
It's a very strange card.
It was like this it's like Bridge was always just going to be this card that either did nothing or was nuts.
Yeah,
and that's always what it's been.
If you're unfamiliar with it, Bridge from Below it's 3 black mana for an enchantment that literally does nothing. It sits there on the battlefield and it doesn't do anything if you cast it. It only does things if it's in your graveyard.
So its casting cost doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. I don't even know why. Yeah,
its casting cost is like kind of cute, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, neat. I guess
3 black mana. You don't need to have black symbols in your deck to cast it. Yeah.
So it's just briefly, it's whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield. If Bridge is in your graveyard, you get a zombie. And then when a creature is put into an opponent's graveyard, if Bridge is in your graveyard, you exile Bridge from Below.
So it's a source of free 2/2s.
Yeah.
And like everything else in Magic, if it's free, just like Hogak, it's not usually fair.
It's busted. Yeah.
These spells are supposed to cost mana.
So basically, it got to the point where the most played card in Modern, in terms of like sheer number of the card across all decks at a given event, was Leyline of the Void,
which deals with Bridge from Below and
Hogak.
Well, in large part Hogak. Obviously, they could
still
you can't really
get to
delve. 7 creatures.
That's tough.
Yeah,
but
basically deals with. Hogak
so it's just kind of when you have this card, when every deck feels they have to play 4 copies of this hate card just so they don't auto lose to the Hogak deck. That's where you get a metagame that has a problem, and so they're
starting to creep into the main.
Yeah, they've at least solved the Hogak problem.
Yeah.
What other changes did they make to Modern, Nelson?
Well, they banned Hogak. They also banned Faithless Looting. We just mentioned Bridge from Below as a card that only ever seems to do unfair stuff whenever it's around. It was a key part of the Hogak deck. It's also been in Bridgevine. It's been in old Dredge decks. Back when you could play Golgari Grave Troll for a little while, you were playing Bridge from Below in that deck. Another card that has seen a ton of play in a lot of different decks in Modern, and usually fuels someone's least favorite deck to play against, or various someone's least favorite deck to play against in Modern, is Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting is a 1 red mana sorcery. It just says draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So it's a red reprint of Careful Study Careful Study is not in Modern. But it also has flashback, so it's actually a better Careful Study. Flashback for 2 colorless and a red. This card helps fill your graveyard with the stuff you want to fill it in. Helps you cast spells on your own turn if you have prowess creatures, because it's only 1 mana and you can turn your spells you can't cast this turn into more spells you can cast. It helps you get your Arclight Phoenix back out of the graveyard. It helps you fill your hand with the right stuff if you're trying to combo off.
Helps you cast Hollow One.
Discards cards for Hollow One. It puts elemental tokens into play off of Young Pyromancer. It gets your other flashback cards in the graveyard, like your Lingering Souls, if that's where you want them.
So basically,
you can cast it under a Blood Moon.
Faithless Looting had a home in every very good Modern deck that was red.
Pretty much, yeah. It was a staple of the format.
Yeah.
And it being banned, it was part of the Hogak deck.
Yeah.
And it's been a part of every deck that relies heavily on the graveyard.
So if you're banning Hogak...
I think just about every deck.
Yeah, if you're banning Hogak, why do you also need to ban Faithless Looting?
Well, we were talking about... I mean, a lot of people I've talked to over the weekend, and since Hogak was printed, there was a thought that if you just ban Faithless Looting, maybe that's enough to stop the Hogak deck too, or at least bring it under control.
What colors was the Hogak deck usually?
Jund. Okay. So it wants to go turn 1, Stitcher's Supplier, and a land drop. Turn 2, Satyr Wayfinder.
Wow.
Yeah, and then cast Hogak with those 2 creatures and Delving 5. So both those creatures put cards in your graveyard.
Right.
So then you can delve those cards, and then hopefully one of them, and you don't have to delve it, is a Vengevine, and then on turn 2 you have an 8/8 Trample, a couple of 1/1s, and a 4/3 that's attacking already. If they play nothing, they're dead on turn 3.
Did you see, brief aside, did you see that there's a weird standard combo deck involving Stitcher Supplier?
Yes.
And Kethis?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
I mean...
We could go back to Faithless Looting after.
Sure.
Do you know how it wins? I just found out from our friend in podcasts at Loading Ready to Run, Ben Wheeler, who played it on the weekend.
Oh, did he? Okay.
He played it, yeah. He crunched into a 2-2 finish at the Standard MCQ in Vegas, but he likes the deck, yeah.
I believe it... I believe it demoralizes your opponent into going away.
Hello, my name is Kethis, and I have a contract here that says you need to listen to me drone on for the next hour and 25 minutes. Yeah.
So Kethis casts for Obzon, white, black, green. That's it. 3 mana for a 3/4. Legendary spells you cast cost 1 colorless less.
Right.
And you exile 2 legendary cards from your graveyard to get, until end of turn, each legendary card in your graveyard gains, you may play this card from your graveyard. So you do that, like you. There's a little bit of setup. There's the
so you mill yourself a bit with
Diligent Excavator
from Dominaria.
From Dominaria, which is whenever you cast a historic spell, you mill a player for 2.
I think that's right. Either cast or whenever a historic permanent comes into play.
Yeah, and so you
probably cast export ball.
Yeah. Okay, so you use the Diligent Excavator. to fill up your graveyard a little bit, get Kethis into play, activate that ability by exiling 2 things you don't care about. And then you end up with this loop where you have Mox Amber, which casts for 0. It's a 0 mana, legendary, historic card, and it taps for 1 mana of any color as long as you control a legendary permanent.
Almost. It adds a mana.
It adds 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control. So if
creatures and planeswalkers, yeah.
Yeah, so if you don't have anything, it doesn't tap for mana. But
that's right.
So basically what you do is you play your Mox Amber out of your graveyard, tap it for mana, then play one of your other Mox Ambers out of your graveyard. You have to because it's legendary, you sacrifice the now tapped one, you tap it for more mana. So you have a loop where you get functionally infinite mana. You can cast all of these, you can cast anything legendary from your graveyard. So you're casting legendary things, you're milling yourself, you're putting more legendary things into your bin, you're casting them essentially for free because you're generating infinite mana with the Mox Amber, and you just sort of keep on doing that until you get to a critical mass where you go, great, now I fire the mill cannon at you, and you make your opponent's deck disappear. And then they're very sad.
That's almost correct.
Okay.
The loop isn't infinite because Kethis' ability only awards the grants the ability to cast out of your graveyard for the cards that are in your graveyard right then. And when the Mox Ambers go back to your graveyard because you've put them there from the legendary rule, they're new objects in your graveyard. So when you're playing this deck, you need to make like a line of cards, just like if you've played Past in Flames in Storm. You have to make a line of cards in your graveyard that you may cast because Kethis
and the ones
has
that you
seen
may
them,
not cast,
and ones that you may not cast. So you're totally right about all the other functions of the deck. Okay. You do mill yourself a bunch.
So word of warning, though.
And then you make mana with these Mox Ambers after you bring them back, so you can cast more of these cheap legends that are also part of the deck to get back out of your graveyard. And then you mill yourself until you're pretty low in library, and then you mill your opponent with Diligent Excavator. That is how it wins. But you have to do it right, and it does work on finite resources. It just gets a lot of legendary creatures or whatever into your graveyard so that you hopefully have enough triggers from Excavator.
Because it is just Diligent Excavator, and you're just like, target me, target me, target me, target me, target me.
Okay.
Target you, target you, right. Target you, target you.
Yeah, and that's what the deck's trying to do.
I saw it, I was watching a stream, I think. I was watching Huey lose to it repeatedly.
Nice.
So, yeah. Anyway, I just found that interesting. So back to Faithless Looting. Banned in Modern. How's the response been? Everyone was just sort of like very excited about Hogak, very excited about an unbanning, which we'll get to next, and I didn't see as much about Faithless Looting beyond sort of a general. I got the impression there was a general feeling of like,
Yes, so Faithless Looting is a card that we've been expecting to see banned, along with Manamorphose. That's another important... Both these cards fuel, as you said, unfair decks, or really strong decks. So I think the response to Faithless Looting is kind of one of like, all right, it's kind of like a sigh of acceptance. There's plenty of us have played our Faithless Looting decks, and we know going back to those decks, they're a reasonable percentage weaker, or they need to turn into something else, right? All the Phoenix decks need to adapt. It's possible they'll just have time now to play worse cantrips, or they'll find one. They'll play a different 1 mana red spell or a different sorcery that loots that'll work. But
I feel like in the breadth of Modern, Phoenix is going to be okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Blue Red Phoenix is still alive. I think Mono Red Phoenix might have been killed by this BNR, right? And that might not be a deck anymore. There's still Mono Red Burn you can play, or you can play Naya Burn, but that Mono Red Phoenix deck was actually really cool and put up, I think, a top 8 in the last Pro Tour. It just came up pretty recently, this take on a Phoenix deck that also plays prowess creatures, and has multiple angles of attack, but does play Manamorphoses and Faithless Lootings, and maybe a few other cheap red spells that don't normally you see. Well, I think it played burn spells. It has Lava Spike as one of the cards that gets a Phoenix back. And maybe there are a couple other red cantrips. But that deck was really into Faithless Looting. Most decks that play Faithless Looting, if they're in trouble and they draw Faithless Looting, it's you see the deck turn into just something else. This card just transforms your hand.
Yeah.
Besides the power of the graveyard.
It does so many individual things. It just it draws, it discards, it puts things in the graveyard. It is a spell being cast. It has flashback. It just it satisfies a whole lot of conditions that different decks need.
But I think because it chews through so many cards in your deck and lets you see so many more cards, it's just unsurprising to everyone that in order to try to keep Modern kind of fair and healthy and wide, like have a lot of options in the future, Faithless Looting going, it makes sense as a move. I don't think we're going to see it unbanned anytime soon.
Right.
And it seems like it's the mono red aspect of, it's that thing where it's like, drawing and discarding and all that stuff is pretty common in like blue, but having to have blue as a whole other color in your deck, is itself could be detrimental or could changes the whole deck around.
Yeah.
But having that ability in red, so you can where it isn't. I mean, there are the rummage effects and stuff, but it's very powerful to have it in basically in not blue.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So, not going to be unbanned anytime soon is sort of generally what we think of when things do get banned in Modern, but a lot of time has passed.
And several cards have been unbanned in Modern,
since this next card was banned, and now I guess it's time for it to be unbanned. It is Stoneforge Mystic, now unbanned in Modern after... Gosh, was Stoneforge in the first round of bannings?
It was part of the format. It started on the banned list.
I was going to say,
along with Umezawa's Jite, which I don't think we'll ever see unbanned in Modern. But Stoneforge and Jite were both banned.
Once again, as a participant in the first ever Modern tournament, I'm sorry for everything we did to the initial ban list.
Well, because
I was not part. I did not have any.
Okay. I wasn't sure what you were talking about actually. Yeah.
So the first I've talked about this before. The first the introduction of Modern as a format, and the first time it was ever played outside of R&D was at the Community Cup.
Oh, right, and that was the Community Cup you played.
Yeah,
right.
And so Luis Scott Vargas was on our team and was a big part of helping put the decks together. And at the time, there wasn't really a ban list, or if there were, it was a couple cards. And then we did this, and R&D was like, and looked at the cards that Luis made and looked at the cards that Gavin Verhey made for the Wizard side, and basically went like, okay, so we're going to ban that one, that one, that one, and that one.
Right. Nice.
So,
well, this was also like Modern kind of came into being around when like Cobblade and stuff was a big deal.
In Standard,
when Jace got banned in Standard, even.
Yeah, because Jace started on the Modern ban list too.
Yes, that's right.
So it seemed
and Ancestral Vision,
basically that deck, the Cobblade, the Jace Stoneforge deck, was kind of banned in Modern in the same way it was banned in Standard. I guess they just didn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
And now it's all unbanned. They've unbanned Ancestral Vision. They unbanned Golgari Grave Troll actually for a little while, then rebanned.
I was going to say they rebanned. I remember Grave Troll because there was definitely a dredge deck in that tournament.
They waited a while, and then last year or the year before, maybe it was they unbanned Jace.
Yeah.
And now they've unbanned Stoneforge. So expect to see Stoneforge Mystic in the next Eternal Masters or whatever. Modern Horizons 2 coming out next year, maybe, featuring reprint Stoneforge Mystic. That'd be neat. So Stoneforge getting unbanned is interesting. Just last night or Sunday night, I checked my Twitter, and a bunch of people I follow were saying that unbanning Stoneforge is a bad idea, and they won't do it. Everyone should calm down. They're not going to unban Stoneforge, because the call to unban Stoneforge was happening a bunch, I want to say last fall and this spring, like for the last year or so. I've read various, explanations of why Stoneforge would be fine in the meta. Modern's really fast. Playing Stoneforge is like just for control and fair decks, and just gives them like a better, although perhaps even like less, it's like cheaper, but less solid win con than maybe just relying on a Jace Ultimate or a Celestial Colonnade attack. But it'll still give those decks a bit more play, and we'll maybe see the rise of some other decks, but probably not slot perfectly into like a tier 1 deck as far as the current meta, that's like Tron and Burn and Jeskai Control or whatever at the time were doing well. So Yeah, I'm a little surprised. Stoneforge Mystic, unlike Jace, actually, Stoneforge Mystic is a card that can cheat you on mana and a tutor. Like Jace is actually neither of those things. He's a card advantage engine, and he's like a mid game sort of catch all, like either draw you into lots of cards to deal with a problem on the board, or just take out a creature and then also be a problem for later with his +2 and just the fact that he's a Planeswalker and you can activate him every turn. They have to deal with it. But Stoneforge lets you cheat a Batterskull into play for 2+2 mana as opposed to 5, and you get to do the second half at instant speed. It also lets you do like some shenanigans where you get a discount on getting the Germ token back from the Batterskull. And yeah, Batterskull, while it's only a 4/4, it has lifelink too, so it's a bit similar to Jitte in the way that it like wrecks combat.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have to get up and above Batterskull. Like green creatures will do it or whatever, or if you can kill the Batterskull itself or the Stoneforge, then maybe you can get around it, but it's definitely a very relevant equipment to get into play, and currently just doesn't see any play in Modern.
Sure it will now.
Yes, it will. Yeah, if you have Stoneforge Mystics and Batterskull, don't sell them this week. Wait till next or whatever. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's going to be...
But I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
I like this
like you
card.
Say, it's never been in Modern. So I'm excited to see how it shakes out.
It's possible it flops. Jace, I feel like, kind of flopped. Like, he's in a deck or two, right? But when Jace was unbanned, people were also very excited. It's like, there'll be all these Jace decks.
People were definitely freaking
Jace in every
out,
color. And now it's like, well, no, he's in blue-white control. And that's
people were freaking out when Jace was unbanned because Jace is, the most powerful Planeswalker.
Yeah.
And, definitely landed like kind of a wet thud. And I'm expecting more out of Stoneforge, to be honest. I mean, I think there's a reason they kept her on the ban list for longer.
Sure. Have there been any, like, since modern or like Batterskull Stoneforge was a thing before. Mm-hmm. Since Modern came out and Stoneforge has been banned,
are there any more good equipments?
Like is there some stuff that we don't know how powerful it's going to be because we haven't seen that?
I don't think so.
Because the swords were the other thing, but those of course have been around for a while.
As someone who has, I don't often, but I have played Stoneforge Mystic and Canadian Highlander, and certainly nothing else has crossed my mind that they've printed. Even these new swords from Modern Horizons, like as soon as I heard like Sword of was getting printed in Modern Horizons, and they gave us the black-red one and the blue-white one.
What about the...
I don't even remember what those cards do. Like they give +2/+2 and protection abilities. Like, so yeah.
I was watching Kenji stream this morning, and he had a deck with Stoneforges and 4 copies of Colossal Hammer from M20.
Nice. And but the thing is, it doesn't equip for free.
No.
So was he also playing the equip cheats? Or
yeah, there's a single red mana.
Because isn't Colossal Hammer only 1 to cast?
Yeah.
Like Kenji's not even beating mana here. He's just tutoring it into his hand.
Yeah, he's tutoring for the Colossal Hammer, and then there's a single red instant that just equips.
Okay. Right. So maybe there's some more ways to core.
So he was
cheating equipment on whatever that was called.
What he was doing was attacking with an unequipped Stoneforge, because at only 1 power it gets under the ensnaring bridge.
Right.
And then instant speed equipping the Colossal Hammer and crunching for 11.
Fun.
Yeah.
If that's cool. I mean,
because his opponent had named Inkmoth Nexus with a Pithing Needle. This was a whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to see the return of the Argentum armor deck. This is actually the reason that I bought my Stoneforges in the first place. It was before Batterskull had been printed. But in the first Scars of Mirrodin set, there's this 6 mana artifact equipment that equips for 6 that Stoneforge can tutor up as equipment, and it gives, I think, +6/+6, and when the equipped creature attacks, you destroy a permanent.
Yeah. It's not remotely fair.
And it's like... Yeah, and it equips for 6, but there's also from Zendikar, there's a white 2/2 that just says when the CTBs attach an equipment to target creature you control. So the Stoneforge and the other core, whose name I forget. Sorry, buddy, you aren't a chase card that people needed to hold on to and buy or sell or trade.
Isn't it just like core equipper or something?
Yeah, equipment master, something like that.
Yeah.
Armament master, something like that. So anyways, so you'd play both these cards and like some Ornithopters or whatever, so you have a good target to equip to. And then you also played a whole bunch of cheap creatures just so that you could specifically resolve the quest for the Holy Relic, which is like that was like another Stoneforge Mystic you got to play just in Standard, but it's like 1 mana enchantment, and then you have to like cast 5 creatures after that, or cast 5 artifacts maybe? I can't remember. This deck was kind of fun, but has just gone away and never come back. But if there's some new version of like, I play a Stoneforge Mystic deck that's just trying to cheat an insane equipment onto something, that'd be great, because this deck was pretty fun.
And that was all the changes for Modern, right?
That's right. We went through Modern. Okay.
What about the Eternal formats? Because I actually don't know anything about what was restricted or unrestricted.
Well, there's a card from Core Set 2020 that is now restricted in Vintage. There weren't any changes for Legacy, but there's 5 cards restricted for Vintage. It's Mystic Forge, and I had no idea that the Vintage...
I couldn't even describe this card to you if you...
I'm assuming it's an artifact and cares about artifacts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 4-mana artifact. You may look at the top card of your library, you tap it to exile the top card of your library, and you may cast artifacts from the top of your library.
Oh, that seems very powerful.
Yeah. It has those, you have to pay a life to exile your...
Did that go into, like, what, shops, or, like, what?
I don't think it went into shops. I'm imagining it went into... Rebuild Storm.
I'm going to pull up the ban restricted list.
I'm guessing the Paradoxical Outcome, Moxes, and they play other like Hurkyl's Recall themselves to just like get a huge storm count and build some mana and draw some cards just with their Moxes and other cheap artifacts, and then because it plays a whole lot of artifacts in that deck, and then they just tendrils you.
So this is one of those things where it's not actually that powerful a card.
No, it's because of Sol Rings
in a vacuum.
Yeah, exactly.
But with the ridiculous artifacts that are available in Vintage.
Yeah, I saw someone playing this in Legacy. I saw someone playing in Legacy. I can't remember
what
the archetype was. But
similar to the quality of artifacts available in Vintage. One of the other restricted cards is Karn the Great Creator.
Right,
this card lets you pull artifacts from your sideboard.
Well, no,
right?
I'm sure the problem... No, that's right.
Okay.
But I think the reason
also shuts down your opponent's artifacts.
I think the reason it's got restricted is just that, like, everyone starts their Vintage deck with a bunch of artifact mana and often play their games with only 1 or 2 lands, maybe even 0 sometimes.
This is the card from War of the Spark that has the static ability. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponents control can't be activated. That includes mana abilities.
And so keep that in mind. Like, keep in mind that sometimes you have 0 or 2 lands for your game plan, and your mana is in large part coming from your artifacts. This isn't every game of Vintage play, but it's a lot of games. And so if your opponent goes Mox, Land, Soul Ring, turn 1, Karn, you are just locked out. And there's probably just, I imagine, I didn't read the article, but I imagine that Karn the Great Creator was leading to enough non-games of Vintage. You know, they're just totally over on turn 1 that they said, okay, let's bring you down to 1 copy of that card.
Duke says Karn the Great Creator and Mystic Forge have turbocharged shops decks by giving them more early game lockout.
Okay.
Yeah, by giving them early game lockout potential and a tutorable win condition through Karn's -2 ability, fetching Time Vault and Voltaic Key, and card advantage in prolonged games. Relating to Karn's static ability, Vintage is the one format in Magic where players can enjoy playing with super powerful artifact mana like the Mox and Soul Ring and Black Lotus, and we'd like to reduce the number of games that immediately come down to an early Karn, preventing the opponent from casting spells.
Okay.
So, yes,
I love the idea that it's just like, somebody you cast the Black Lotus. And you're like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice this Black Lotus. The Black Lotus goes, "Are you crazy? Karn's over there. I don't want to do anything. Karn's just glaring at it. That's right. You don't do anything.
You do nothing. Those steely blue eyes.
Yeah, it's like Karn is like just the boss.
You just sit there, you little flower.
Karn is just
sit right there.
The boss of artifacts.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I do want to talk about Standard, since I imagine this probably more relevant to our viewers than Vintage. But
I was surprised to see. Look, we can finish up the Vintage.
Yeah, I was going to say I just want to finish talking about Vintage.
I was surprised Mental Misstep hadn't been banned yet.
Yeah, so Mental Misstep is restricted,
Yeah.
and Golgari Grave Troll is restricted.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
And what does restricted mean rather than banned?
It means you can only play 1 of them in your deck. In Vintage, you're allowed to play at least 1 of every card in Magic ever printed, except Falling Star and Chaos Orb and Scheherazade.
Right.
And the anti-cards.
Yes, right, and the anti-cards and the silver border cards.
The standard anti and
tear up the card and drop it from the
dexterity cards.
Play a game under the table and do a breathing contest with your opponent cards. Yeah, I don't play with those.
Yeah, the Mental Misstep apparently it says was a controversial card in the Vintage community for years. And they believe that restricting it will open up more deck building diversity, strengthening the interactive matchups against shops and weakened dredge. And then similarly, Golgari Grave Troll is because of dredge decks revolving around Bazaar of Baghdad have been
right. So the London Mulligan, this is specifically the deck that got.
This is the one deck that got better with the London Mulligan.
Well, not the only deck that got better with the London Mulligan, but it was like first when they released the information about the London Mulligan, a bunch of people were like, the combo decks are so good. And then like the very next week, people came back, or the very next hour or whatever, people came back with like, well, no, everyone's sideboard cards get better. It's like, it's not Dredge and Modern that gets scarier with the London Mulligan. It's Leyline of the Void, right? So it's like if you have 4 of an answer card, it's actually really easy to tutor to just that if you can just completely beat your opponent with 1 card. But then Vintage Dredge is like, well, actually in Vintage Dredge you only need 1 card to win. So you can just find your Bazaar of Baghdad and then just every turn put like your whole deck into your graveyard and make 100 2/2s with Bridge of Blows we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And then they also unrestricted Fast Bond.
Oh, cool. Fastbond also just lost its 1 point value in Canadian Highlander. I've been meaning to toss it into a deck. And I just recently...
Hashtag Fastbond to 0?
Yeah, Fastbond to 0, it happened. And I recently played a deck with the Gitrog monster in it, but I still didn't even find room for Fastbond. I was like, this is the B plan. I got a lands thing going on, but I don't even want to I can't find room for Fastbond. So, yeah, good job, Highlander Council. Okay.
So meanwhile in Standard...
what happened? Did they ban something?
They unbanned something. Between now...
What's banned in Standard?
Between now and Throne of Eldraine, you get the last hurrah of the dinosaurs. They have unbanned Rampaging Ferocidon.
That's right. There was only 1 card banned in this Standard format, and it was Rampaging Ferocidon, and they waited until halfway past the last set to be released in the format to let my beautiful little 3/3 menace for 3 have another turn at the tournaments.
Now, originally when they banned Rampaging Ferocidon, Amonkhet was still in the format, wasn't it? And this was part of the Hazoret deck?
Yes. Yeah, so it was Ramanap Red.
Ramanap Red, yeah. That was the one.
I believe it was banned before Guilds of Ravnica was printed. The
TLDR was that when they banned it, mono red decks were absolutely bonkers, and mono red decks suck now. So they're like, well, whatever. We'll unban Ferocidon. You got 3 months. Have fun.
I feel like Ferocidon...
2 months.
So it's from Ixalan.
Hang on. It's August 27th.
Yeah, it's like
you've got
5
3
weeks.
weeks.
3 weeks. No, because the set... Well, the PPR is coming up fast, but the set doesn't release until October 4th.
Okay, so you got 5 weeks. Go fun.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Rampage.
But look at this card, right? What's its set symbol? It's Ixalan. Yeah. It was from the first set that came out in the fall, right? And then it got banned before Dominaria. Did it get banned before even Rivals of Ixalan?
I think so.
Came out? So like Rampaging Ferocidon is getting 5 more weeks, which is possibly
longer than they had initially.
Doubling up the amount of time total. No, I think maybe it had 8 or 10 weeks. Like maybe it was like September set comes out, then 5 weeks later there's a Pro Tour, and then like no, it had to have been like the week after that. Yeah, so Rampaging Ferocidon getting the second half of its life in Standard. Yeah. I'm looking at the comments. I'm not going to bother Googling it, but it's didn't get very long the first time, obviously.
Now, super relevant and interesting, I think this is very interesting, is that on Arena, because I imagine many of our listeners enjoy a good run around the Magic Arena, this Rampaging Ferocidon will remain banned in Best of 1 Standard on Arena. It'll be unbanned in Best of 3, but it'll remain banned in Best of 1, where they have a couple other cards that are banned, because apparently mono red decks in Best of 1, they're still doing just fine without it.
Yeah, we could...
So is that because you don't have a chance to...
there's no sideboard.
You don't have a chance to sideboard against... Like, what do you sideboard against Ferocidon?
Well, you can bring in, it's like a slower, bigger threat, right? But the one that has to be dealt with. So you can turn some more of your cards that aren't removal for it into removal for it, right? If you have those options in the sideboard. I wouldn't mind just leaning on the Ian Duke article one more time, just from what I remember, and also what I've been talking about, the Standard metagame. I really like the Standard metagame, by the way. I wish I had time to play it more. With the release of M20, Black-White Vampires is a very real deck. Also, Escape Shift is a very real deck.
Those are the two that he mentioned specifically, yeah.
Yeah, and they're a big part of the meta since M20. And then there's all these other decks that are still fine. You might remember, like, Esper Control, still a totally real and viable deck to play if you want to. And then there's like mono red, and there's black, green, or Sultai mid-range decks. You can play those. Those have not gotten too many more cards, but you can play those. And
this is like their attitude for this definitely seems. I mean, they say as much. They're like, we actually think the standard metagame is fine.
Yeah,
we think it's we don't think there's anything wrong with it that needs fixing, but we also don't think that Ferocidon will ruin it, and might help a couple things that might help a couple strategies to combat the two most powerful strategies. And it's only going to be 5 weeks, so why not? Go for it. Have a dinosaur back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's been looking at us with those little puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
It's promised to be good.
Yeah.
It's promised to only rampage, occasionally.
I feel like Ferocidon is back because at R&D, it's been bugging them that they printed Ferocidon into this format that they later had to ban it, and they were like, we want to unban it. We want to not have any cards banned in Standard. It's a badge of honor.
And they printed that rad dinosaur in M20, and there's no dinosaur deck.
Right. Well, no, that's fair. Jund Dinosaurs was around for a little while.
Yeah, actually, there is a Jund Dinosaurs deck, but this is better now. Our boy
Ben Ulmer just come in second place in Twitch Rivals with Jund Dinosaurs?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't that happen?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, Ben and Wedge.
So, Wedge and Ben are probably both stoked about the Rampaging Ferocidon unban. I think it's just hilarious to even bother unbanning it. Right? It's just reminds people that there's a banned card from Ixalan. Right?
I probably wouldn't have remembered. I would have been like, oh yeah, right, Ferocidon's banned at some point. Like, that's what happened when this was unbanned. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, that's still... Oh, I guess that's still legal.
Exactly.
All right.
So kind of funny and...
Go off, I guess.
Probably somewhat relevant.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my friends, and he's been playing Mono Red on Arena, and... Yeah, the Vampires match is kind of hard because they have a bunch of life gain and they're a fast creature deck too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you're specifically that player who likes playing Mono Red in best of 3 and you've been losing to Vampires, now you have a great tool to try to deal with Vampires. So that's cool.
Great. So before we wrap up, a bunch of the Loading Ready Run boys went down to Vegas, and they're just staying in the States because PAX is next weekend, and it just makes more sense than coming home and going back. So James and Serge and Cam and Adam and Ben are still down there. You were down in Vegas, and you are back now. How was MagicFest Vegas?
I had a good time at MagicFest Vegas. I mostly just wanted to say thanks to all the Loading Ready Run fans who wanted me to sign your playmats or shake my hand or just say hi or meet me. It turns out Loading Ready Run fans are great. Mm-hmm. I hadn't been exposed to this a ton yet, although plenty of people at other MagicFests have come up to me. But Vegas is very well attended, so there's just a lot of people. I feel like every time I went from one place to another, someone stopped me to say hey, I love your work. Thanks so much for being on Tap Tap Concede and Friday nights. And I was very touched. So thank you to everyone.
I feel very fortunate with the community that we have cultivated.
Yeah, you should. I do too. Yeah, your fans are great.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Cool.
But yeah, the MagicFest was great. There were just oodles of cosplayers. I didn't have nearly as much time to fanboy over cosplayers as I wanted to. I saw lots of people who I hadn't seen before and wasn't familiar with and started looking for on Twitter, but haven't even finished doing that. But there was tons of great costumes happening in the hall, and there were tons of events. I only got to play in one, but I judged a bunch of the side drafts, and that area was constantly packed. I felt like the judge cohort was well staffed. There was enough of us, it seemed to cover our positions. I was almost bored a couple of times, near the end of the day or near the beginning of the day. But that's better than being stressed the whole weekend. So hopefully that translated. Hopefully that translated all the players there. Hopefully it felt for the players when they needed something, it got done pretty quick. So I felt CFB did a really good job of just getting the right number of judges in there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, the hall was good. I actually found vegan food options, no problem, even in the hall. The concession.
Wow.
Yeah, the concession that kind of just looks like a greasy spoon and has chili dogs or whatever. I was like, do you have any vegan options? And immediately the lady was just I'll make you a sandwich. What do you want? You want all these things? I was like, yeah, just give me all the vegetables. And she was like, cool, there you go. So
that's dope as hell.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, cool.
So I had a good time.
Shout outs to you, Las Vegas. That is going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening and for joining us here. If you're watching on the new LRR MTG channel, we're happy to have you. And a reminder that this show is brought to you by Card Kingdom. Check out cardkingdom.com/LRR. We recommend them because we use them ourselves and we think they're great.
They're great.
So there. And of course, this show and everything we do is brought to you by you and your kind support of our Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So, until next time, I have been Grant.
I'm Nelson.
And that's been Nelson. And Paul's over there, and Heather edits these and gets them online for you, and we'll talk to you next time.